Hi everybody, I'm Blue Nagoon, and today I'm talking about some of my favorite songs that came out in November of this year. I tend to listen to a lot of vocal pop music, especially retrowave and adjacent genres, because I like the songwriting sensibilities and the synth sounds, so a lot of the stuff on this list is going to be from those genres. Hopefully you find something you like. Alright, first up we have the Lightning Kids' new album, All of Those Nights. I was really excited for this album when I heard the lead single, Ride, a few months ago. It's one of my favorite songs of the year. Spoiler alert for a future video. And then the next couple singles were good, but they didn't grab me quite as hard as that first song, and come to find out that's pretty much my reaction to the album itself. Emma Boleyn, the lead singer of the Lightning Kids, has a really fantastic, melancholy, wistful kind of sound she can bring into her singing. And I feel like the band is at its best when they lean into that. And so the songs that I like the most on this album are Ride, Magnets, and Motel, that kind of have that melancholy streak. Those three songs are absolutely phenomenal and some of the best pop music I've heard in a long time. The rest of the album leans really heavily into its theme, which is teenagers in love in the summer in California in the 80s. So it's really borrowing heavily from all those retrowave tropes. And honestly, for me, those never really held a ton of magic for me in the beginning, but especially after the past couple years of listening to a lot of this music, any magic that they had is kind of gone. And I find myself more interested in different narratives and more personal lyrics and that kind of thing. But if you're a fan of pop music of any kind, especially retrowave genres, you've got to check this album out, especially those three songs I mentioned, which are just phenomenal. Alright, next up is the song Tiny Love by Am Boleyn. This is the classic lyrical theme of somebody who is just head over heels crazy about somebody, but they're desperately trying to convince themselves that they're not. I'm a huge fan of when a song uses the craft of songwriting, like the harmony and the structure, to reinforce the lyrical themes, and this song is a fantastic example. The whole first verse, the narrator is talking about like what's going on, but she's kind of talking around it, like not really admitting exactly what's happening, not admitting the truth, and the whole production just makes it feel like there's something bubbling under the surface that's about to break free. I especially like the big epic reverby drum hits that are happening, like something's trying to punch through. And harmonically, almost the whole song is the 6 and 4 chord, but at the pre-chorus it does go to the 5, and it's really satisfying how it starts building the tension, and she's singing tiny little thing, tiny little thing, and then when she finally says tiny little thing called love, that's the moment when the song just kicks in, and it is as if to say, uh-oh, the truth is out, we're in trouble, the chaos is happening, and it's just really satisfying the way they use every trick in the book to build up to that moment. If I had one complaint about this song, it would be that I wish there was a real bridge section with a big change up in chords and a change in perspective, like something that recontextualizes the song and kind of lets us know where the narrator's going or what she's going to decide to do. As it is, there's a little bridge bit, but it doesn't really change what's happening in the song. It uses the same chords as the part before. Anyway, but that's a minor thing. This song is fantastic, the atmosphere is fantastic, and just the way it's crafted is really great.
A tiny little thing called love. A tiny little thing called love.
Alright, next up is Royksopp. They released 3 albums this year, or really more accurately 3 volumes of one mega album, and the last one just came out in November. It's a lot of music to go through, but there's a lot of gems on all 3 volumes. My favorites, of course, are always the vocal features, especially the ones with Suzanne Sunfor, who's one of my favorite singers. The track that really grabbed me on this last volume is called The Night, featuring Alison Goldfrapp. It's a long, slow burn build of a song. It starts as like this kind of minimalist industrial synth song with like weird bleeps and bloops, and then it just gradually grows into this big, lush, trancey dance pop song, and then it has this beautiful sort of ambient denouement. It's just a fun journey with some really cool synth sound design, especially like the growly, gnarly bass. Alright, next up is another album recommendation, and it's called The Scale of Dreams by Carrellee. I heard one song from this album on a playlist, and it inspired me to go listen to the whole album. And the first time I listened to it, I was like, oh yeah, that's nice. But something about it made me want to come back to it. And the second time I listened to it, I was like, oh, that's really nice. And then I kept listening to it, and it just kind of slowly got its hooks into me, and it's become one of my favorite albums of the past month. So the album was a bit of a grower for me, but I'm really glad that I gave it a chance. There's a lot of subtlety and a lot of cool things that come out on repeat listens. Carrellee's voice is incredibly versatile, and she has a lot of control over it, and I just love the way from phrase to phrase and note to note, she'll go from like full singing back to like breathy and light. She'll push into both ends of her range. There's just continual surprises and subtleties in the vocal performance. The album is synthy the indie pop. I get a lot of like 90s pop vibes, but of course synths and drum machines and stuff instead of guitars. A lot of the album feels very warm and cozy. There's a lot of like lo-fi, saturation, noise kind of effects happening. Some of my favorite tracks on here are Morning Sun. I love the understated synth shuffle and the never ever ever hook in the chorus. I love the song Stay. The vocal performance is amazing. I love when she cuts loose a little bit towards the end of the song. And for example, one of the little subtle vocal things, I love the way that she holds the S and stay sometimes. There's stay, like just adding some extra tension in there. Carrellee Sky is really pretty. It's got some of that nice warm saturation I was talking about. It has a cool guitar line that is the main driver of the song. The song Anywhere builds up really triumphantly into this great climax with these cool synth stabs and vocal arrangements. So like I said, this album grew on me and it's become one of my favorites. I hope that you'll give it the old college try as well, and it's definitely worth your time.
You taste like the morning sun. Never, ever, ever coming back.
All right, next up is another album recommendation, and I'm really excited to talk about this one. It's The Keening Sessions by The Third Entity. Now, technically, this album did not come out this last month. It was earlier this year, and it veers pretty far away from synthpop in a lot of places, but I have to talk about this album. So I discovered it because there's a remix that just came out by Synth Lovers Cafe of one of the songs. But this album is mind-blowing. It's some of the most unabashed, like, damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead kind of music that I've heard in a long time. I'm not gonna lie, it's much weirder than a lot of the stuff that I recommend, but I just found it irresistible. I'm not sure how you'd categorize it exactly, probably art pop or prog pop. There's definitely synth pop in places. There's these big, giant rock drum grooves throughout, and just unfathomably original vocal arrangements. The really strong artistic vision and those big drums call to mind Paula Cole's album This Fire, which was an important album to younger me, so that is a very good association. So The Third Entity's artist description says that she is doing a modern version of keening, which is like wailing in sorrow at funerals. It says that she is keening for all there is to grieve in the world in the 21st century, which, I mean, yeah, that's a long list. She's using digital sounds that reflect the digital age, invoking robotic, angelic, and demonic voices. Yeah, sounds about right. I'll be honest, this album kind of freaks me out, but in a good way, like I'm jumping into a cold lake or something. It's just so exhilarating to see such a powerful artistic vision being realized. There's just so much energy and creativity. You know, there are moments on this album that have me doing this insane, like, cathartic laugh. And my wife looked over, she's like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, I have no idea. But yeah, just, you have to check this album out. You might hate it, you might love it, but it's absolutely worth checking out.
It feels good. What will become of us?
Next up is the song Touching Me Now by Alke. You know, I'm always on board when you have sad, heartbroken kind of lyrics, but matched with very peppy music. The lyrics here remind me of like a modern pop country song or Robin's Dancing on My Own. Some great little details in the lyrics, you know, the kind of thing that you can't help but fixate on when you've been wronged. I especially like the lyric, "You're doing great and I hate to see it." Fantastic, punchy synth pop production. I really like the kind of leaping melody in the pre-chorus, and then the chorus, of course, is suitably massive.
I made it now. I'm thinking about. Is she right there? Is she touching you now?
All right, everybody, those are my recommendations for November. I hope you find something you like. To that end, there are playlists below both for Bandcamp and for Spotify. Coming soon, I'll have videos counting down my favorite songs and albums of the year, so subscribe if you want to see those coming. I also make music like this of my own. I'll put a little snippet at the end if you want to hear it, and links below if you want to check it out. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
I couldn't keep the secret. I couldn't hide the lust in my heart.